Why is it that some weeks you can be sharp, you can be productive, you can feel like you're in the fire, almost like yourself again, and then suddenly something will tip it? Maybe it's a bad night, heavy week, one too many demands, and you're back in the fade. You're back at the bottom, you're flatter than before, you're taking longer to recover than last time. You've been in this cycle for so long that you're starting to think it's just how you are. You're starting to think, actually, maybe I'm just inconsistent. Maybe this is just me. But that's not the case. This is what we call the oscillation cycle. And it's a pattern that's so hard to name because you do have good moments. Like, there's so much movement here that it's hard to identify what state you're actually in. You have those moments where you're in the fire. You can think clearly, you can get the work done, and it feels like you've turned a corner, you're feeling good. And you can just explain away the crashes as temporary, just a rough week, a bad night, whatever it may be, something you can recover from. But every time you experience one of those crashes, it takes a bit longer to recover. The good periods seem to get shorter, and the bad periods get deeper and longer. And the interventions that used to work, the things that used to get you back on good standing, are taking a lot more effort for a lot less return. So what's actually happening here? Well, you're oscillating between sympathetic activation and dorsal vagal shutdown, two different nervous system states. It's essentially the sprint crash cycle. When you're up and running, you're in fight or flight, producing, pushing, compensating, running on caffeine and adrenaline, and a desire to get things done. Then when you crash, your system goes into conservation mode, flat, withdrawn, disconnected. And neither state is truly the fire. It might feel like it when you're up, but that's not the case. The problem with this is that most interventions will target one state at a time. You'll feel the crash coming, so you'll try and rest. That might help with the shutdown, but it doesn't address the sympathetic overdrive that's actually causing it. You feel the recovery starting, so you think, okay, I'll push again. And that floods the system before it's actually restored, and it triggers the next crash to happen even faster and even harder. You end up treating two separate states with the same tool, but the tool keeps missing. And there's also something specific that happens in this oscillation cycle that doesn't happen in either state alone. Your baseline itself drops. Every time you crash and recover, the floor of your capacity gets slightly lower than it was before. So your version of the fire, the best version of you that you can currently access, gets diminished each cycle. Not dramatically, just enough that the distance between who you are and who you know you're capable of being gets wider. The cycle just starts to trend down. And unfortunately, that's not the direction we want to go in. We want to trend upwards. So how do we work on this? Well, the intervention for the oscillation cycle is different from either state in isolation. You're not trying to fix the crash with rest or the overdrive with effort. You're trying to create a stable floor that both states have to pass through, a consistent baseline that your nervous system can orient around regardless of whether you're currently going up or coming down. So here's how you can start on this. We call it the daily baseline anchor, and it takes 3 minutes every morning. Before you slam your coffee, before you look at your phone, before any other input, do this in the same order. 30 seconds of slow breathing. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Not a formal protocol, just slow, deliberate breathing. Followed by 30 seconds of a body scan. Just sit and notice. Where are you holding tension? Is it in your jaw, your shoulders, your chest? Those tend to be the places. You're not trying to release it. You're not trying to force it. You're not trying to do anything else. You're just noticing where that load is sitting in your body. And then 2 minutes of the simplest possible movement. Walk, stretch, roll your joints, whatever, doesn't matter. Something that gets you into your body before the day pulls you out of it. I'm just laughing at the fact that I said roll your joints. That's completely different. That's not what I meant. I meant literally physically roll your joints. But that's it. Okay, 3 minutes. Same sequence every morning without an exception. That mechanism is consistent, but it's not complex. Okay, the oscillation cycle thrives on this all or nothing pattern that you find yourself in. Full effort, full collapse, and nothing in between. A daily baseline anchor will interrupt that pattern by creating a non-negotiable middle ground that exists regardless of what state you're in. So on the good days, it anchors the ceiling. On the bad days, it anchors the floor. And over time, it begins to narrow the distance between the two. So the instructions for that are going to be in the caption, okay? Now, this isn't going to stop the oscillation immediately, but it will start to raise the floor. And when the floor raises, the ceiling follows. And it's not because you are now pushing harder or because you've accessed something that allows you to push harder. It's because your system has something stable to build from. I want you to remember with this that oscillation isn't your personality. It's not a character flaw. It doesn't mean you're inconsistent. It's just the price you pay for operating at a higher level. It's what happens when intensity runs without infrastructure long enough that your baseline just starts to erode itself. So 3 minutes, set your anchor, same time every morning, and we can start to raise the floor.